tuning in to the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
What's up, AfterBuzzers, and welcome back to Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 5, Failsafe. I'm Roxy Striar, and I am lucky enough to be watching an incredible dance performance by Lex Michael and Frank Moran. Guys, what is going on over there?
I don't know that it's a dance performance so much as just a single ritual movement repeated over and over
it's
and over.
A fire.
No, you missed the second part of the dance, the actual explosion.
We actually didn't discuss the explosion ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
This was a non-controlled explosion.
That's right.
He totally screwed you on that one, then.
He did.
You can't control when a heart combusts, guys.
No, I am concerned. And also Lex Michael all over social media at the Lex Michael.
It's very important when you're concerned to make sure they know where you can be followed.
Well, it's like, I'm concerned. So, guys, if you're concerned like me, we'll talk about it on social media.
It was a flawless transition in my eyes. What about you, Frank?
Hi, you can follow me on social media at HappyGoJackie.
And you guys know Dave Child. We love him so much, but he is not here. So, yeah, at the Dave Child, at Mr. Dave Child.
At
Mr. Dave Child.
He is this evening trapped in a Russian gulag.
Oh.
Our thoughts are with him this
evening.
evening.
And he texted you that?
He did. They let him have his phone, which was odd, but gulags have come a long way since the mid-'80s.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I love how long we get to listen to this because I feel like we should actually bring back the beat.
Oh,
we can all kind of do the explosion
I
a
gotta
little
sync
bit.
myself up with Frank
yeah,
here.
there we go.
There we go.
And out. And in. It's like a workout class.
It's true. So 80s.
Yeah, I'm really loving it. All right, guys.
We can bust.
What are our overall thoughts on tonight's episode? We're 5 deep. That's pretty far along in the season. How are we feeling?
So we finally are at a place where it seems like everybody wants to be on the team, right?
We didn't have any questions about tonight whether we were all going to keep doing this, but whether we would kill some members.
Yeah, there was the issue of whether or not we're going to shoot each other, but it did seem like everybody was there willingly.
Nobody was roofied tonight. I agree with that. Alcohol for the minors, but no roofies.
Yeah, and not for nothing, now Martin cares about the drinking age?
Yeah, I know. We'll definitely get to that. Frank, how'd you feel about tonight?
Because I know before this, there was talk before Legends of Tomorrow happened, there was always speculation that perhaps Adam would be having his own spin-off series. And so far, I could definitely see that would not have been a very good, I think a show with legs. But I think a Firestorm show is showing that potentially it could go for a little bit of social time. I think there's some interesting things, but it's also, you've got Victor Garber, too.
Why do you say that about Adam, though?
Because so far I've not seen him do anything except just be a chump and then just get beat up and have a suit fail. So I don't know if he can really carry his own show. It just seems like he's never been that hero that's going to be able to carry a show single-handedly.
What also seems like Ray Palmer as a character, at least this version of Ray Palmer, works a lot better when he's playing off of other personalities. If you took this Ray and you just threw him into a scenario where he didn't have a highly contrasting personality to play off of, I feel like that gets old pretty quickly.
I think if I wasn't watching Arrow before I watched Legends of Tomorrow, I wouldn't feel like I need a victory so desperately for Ray.
Oh, sure.
But I feel that way because we've been watching him for so long, even as silly as it sounds with his love life and Felicity, like, I need a win for Adam. I need it. And it needs to be bigger than 1 week he finally realizes how to use his suit and it doesn't actually malfunction. Like, that, I need it desperately.
And I don't know if that's a victory so much as it's not a failure. Like, I figured out how to use the thing that I made and I'm the only one who can use is less a victory than it's, all right, I made it today, I suppose.
Exactly. So tonight, again, I kind of felt similar to you. Like, oh, I feel bad because you're a good dude, but a little chump-like, a little bit. Yeah. We'll get into him further down the line, but I want to start with talking about Stein. And we got a really cool moment. We're bringing all different people on the show, and tonight we get a minute, if that, with Cisco.
So I have questions about this. Largely, we didn't spend much time on how exactly Vostok got inside his head, did we?
Well, you mean when I paused it and turned to you guys and said, is she shape-shifting or like,
right? And it's like it doesn't seem like he's hallucinating on his own, because it's not like he'd been there forever. They weren't starving him. It looked like for a prisoner of a gulag, it looked like he was being pretty well taken care of. So it's not, I'm starving, I'm exhausted, I'm seeing things.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was probably some sort of chemically induced hallucination while they're trying to interrogate him.
She hinted at that.
Yeah.
Like, we're messing with your mind. And then we saw later on the serum she was trying to give him to cause him the pain. So I guess she has a lot of different things at her disposal.
Yeah, it's certainly not something that I cannot buy. I just can't explain it.
Would you have realistically liked us to sit for another minute and be like, here's actually how it happened?
Oh, no, not at all.
Because I do that too. I'm like, wait, why didn't they tell me more? Because I didn't really need to know. It was just good enough the way they left it. But it was, I was confused for the first few seconds. What's going on? Why does Cisco look like this? Is this reverb? Have we gone to Earth too?
Yeah.
Baffling.
It felt very much like reverb, and I suppose that's a little bit dream logic type stuff, because when you have a dream, even if it seems very real, there are always elements of it that should, if you're lucid enough, key you into the fact that you're dreaming. So I like that what keyed Stein into the fact that this is not real is that Cisco is never this polite or formal, does not dress this way, does not have his hair this way. So then I'm wondering what part of Stein's psyche projected all of that stuff onto the image of Cisco in the first place. But I don't think we needed to spend more time on that either.
Yeah, it seemed like she was saying the word, so maybe he was just seeing her, Cisco, with her voice, in the sound of his voice, if that makes any sense. That's kind of how I took it. Like, she was saying sir, and then he realized, oh my god, this isn't Cisco. So it's not really his psyche. It's.
But I did like the way Stein looked himself in his own hallucination. I want to say, maybe Frank, you seem to be able to pull encyclopedic knowledge out of nowhere all the time. So maybe you remember. I think in the Matrix they call it like residual self-image, your projection, your idealized projection of what you look like. So that's what you look like in the Matrix. I like that in Stein's hallucination, he dressed pretty much exactly the way he always does, but he's wearing a bow tie.
Sweet bow tie. He rocked it. I thought he looked good. Come on.
If we had known in advance, we would have worn our sweet bow ties and looked that much cooler when pumping our hearts like that. The explosion. Maybe we could have done like a little straighten of the tie.
Got one of the motorized bow ties that spin.
Yeah, it would have been amazing. What did we think about Vostok in tonight's episode? Do we feel like she was loyal to Vandal Savage in a way that, because at least for me, I was confused by her loyalty there. Did you guys feel like it was justified?
I don't know. I mean, I felt like the loyalty just seemed like, it certainly didn't seem to be fear motivated at all, just because she seemed to really take umbrage when Stein was insulting Savage. So it felt like it was more a personal involvement. So I felt like she deliberately did that out of just, I guess, some sort of interest in Vandal Savage or what he could do for her, as opposed to being, I'm afraid of him, what he could do to me if I denied going along with his plans.
Did you take it romantically at all?
I don't think I took it romantically, but certainly maybe intrigued by power and the possibilities that what Vandal's plan was for the Firestorm Matrix was very alluring to her.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that, and I think Vostok is part of a long tradition of fictional villainous scientists who are always a little crazier than they are smart, but they're crazy smart. It's just interesting to me that being as crazy as she is, she was able to make it quite as far as she did in her work. I think maybe it was just the excitement of being this close that finally put her over the edge. What fascinates me is that Vandal Savage really cares all that much one way or the other about this project. This, to me, because he's got much bigger concerns, specifically as applies to, I'm going to continue to be immortal and I'm in love with Shiara and we're going to be together in eternity. The fact that he's going to pause over here and go, yeah, Russian Firestorm. This seems fun.
But we saw what the future looked like if he succeeded, so maybe he knew that something, this could be greater than anybody else was looking at it.
Yeah, I love the idea that he sees something that could potentially be disastrous for the entire planet and stops off and goes, yeah, this totally seems fun. Sure, let's do this for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so far, it seems like it's just basically the running themes that anytime that the Legends interact with them, they end up doing something that gives Savage an idea of advancing some sort of tactical weapon way farther ahead than it would ordinarily happen in the timeline. And so then they always have to kind of basically just cleaning up their own messes, so to speak.
I love the idea that there is an alternate timeline where the Legends never assembled and everything's better.
That's true. So far, yes.
Oh gosh, don't tell them that.
Well, it's like Rip says that if we don't get together and stop Vandal Savage, that it's going to ruin history, it's going to ruin the future, it's all going to be terrible. But for the most part, Rip's been wrong about almost everything else. So,
it's all about Rip's family.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
You're totally. I get why Rip is completely invested in this plan. I'm still going, at this point, I don't know if I would listen to Rip if I'm any of these other people. I mean, Stein said himself tonight, like, it was a joke, but hey, for once, we didn't completely ruin the timeline.
I think we're starting to see that, especially with people like Captain Cold, who isn't taking anything Rip says seriously or listening to his instructions whatsoever.
Yeah, it is disconcerting to me, though, that like the one time, and tonight I think is maybe the first time that Rip has come up with a plan inside of the context of the individual episode that potentially could work, and the plan directly involves shooting and killing one of his team.
Mm-hmm.
That's troubling.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Going back for a second, because I want to finish talking about Stein and Vostok before we move on, I was shocked that they merged. I don't know why I was so shocked, because we saw in the preview that she was going to be a Firestorm, but oh my gosh, when she actually reached out and grabbed him, I couldn't get over it. I didn't know how the heck we were going to get out of that one.
Yeah, I definitely thought that was surprising as well. Maybe this was something they addressed back on Flash when we started to introduce Firestorm as a concept. Do we know exactly why Martin never gets to be the body? Why he always has to be stuck in the head of a younger, prettier person?
No, I mean, the only reason that I can think of is, at least in the comic books, it was portrayed that he was unconscious when he was affected by the Firestorm Matrix. So he always assumed more of the consciousness, not the physical form, because Ronnie was conscious when that all happened. But and in the Flash series, he was rendered unconscious right before the reactor went up, and Ronnie was still conscious. So that could be an effect that, because he was unconscious during that, he always assumes the consciousness part and not the physical form.
Sure, and on a meta level, it totally makes sense, where you'd want the crazy, hyper-intelligent scientist to be the brain, while the younger, more physically able person would be the body. But it does feel like somebody had a conversation about this and decided it and didn't tell anybody.
Do you know who it was? It was the insurance company who was like, okay, he's a little too old to be doing the things you want Firestorm to be doing. Whatever you want, he's got to be the brains and let somebody else be the bronze.
And I'm sure Victor Garber's just as happy doing the voiceover instead of being on the harness and the green screen stuff and all that.
He's also probably the busiest actor on the show. I mean, he's booking everything left and right, always has been. So fine, let him then do his little voiceover when he needs to, but he doesn't need to be there all the time.
Sure.
But still, again, I will say that I really want to see sometime with the Firestorm Matrix, when they're Firestorm, just his giant kind of ghost head doing the talking like he did in the comic books. That was always one of my favorite things.
Yeah, CW is thinking right now, and that's in our budget. Where?
A giant ghost Victor Garber head?
This show is already very expensive, Frank.
Come on, there's always room for a giant ghost Victor Garber head.
I think it looks amazing, though. I will just stop and say that from everything, the scoring to just the special effects visually, even Wave Rider every time we go through, I'm all in on what they're doing.
Absolutely. I feel like I've gotten a little bit spoiled specifically by these shows. It was the finale, I think season finale, season 1 of The Flash, and going into season 2, where I stopped, like as I was watching an episode, I stopped and went, the effects work on this show is staggering.
Was that Grodd? What happened in season 1?
Oh, when he has to run up the building into the vortex and all that, and then coming into season 2 in that extended sequence immediately following that, I was like, this is incredible, and we're seeing it on television. And then to get, and you know, even when you're watching Flash, and yeah, it's an effects heavy show, you don't get a spectacle on that scale on that show every week. But then Legends of Tomorrow, the way it functions, the way they get from place to place, the way they do what they do, necessitates quite a bit of spectacle every week. And to see it every week is insanely impressive. And it's like, yeah, no wonder they're doing 16 episodes and not the full 22, because that would double their budget effectively.
Well, they straight up said that.
Yeah.
And it's also about storyline and all of that. But
of course.
Yeah, it's too expensive. The show just blatantly is. Let's move on to talking about Hawkgirl and Jax, who took a back seat in this episode based on Rip just saying, hey, you got to sit out. If I'm Jax at this point, I'm pissed. because except for last week, he has had to sit out every single frickin' mission.
Yep.
Like, he probably is feeling so claustrophobic on this ship. I didn't think this was fair at all. How did you guys feel?
Well, it's just I feel like everybody at this point should be really questioning Rip's, and we talked about this last week, Rip's planning strategies, where he just excludes various members from the team from all these missions, where it's like you've got, especially in this one, it was him, Shiera, and Jax or Kendra, and Jax sitting on the sidelines for this. Well, why not get everybody involved in this mission? It's kind of frustrating, Rip's tactical strategies.
Well, and we talked a little bit while we were watching the episode about how there is a certain amount of logic to, well, if you send Jax in, then they can get a hold of both halves of Firestorm. If you send Kendra in, then Vandal Savage can potentially either kill her or abduct her, and neither scenario is good. However, unless this was Rip's first day on the job, how did he not assume we were going to arrive at a point where you need to send both of them in?
You could ask the same question about last week. Sarah and Hawkgirl sitting out to fight each other. We have to assume we're going to need them at some point.
It's because Rip, like you say, like I've been saying, Rip is very bad at strategy unless apparently it involves killing one of his friends.
Yikes. We have a comment in the chat about Rip. By the way, just so you guys know, we go live on YouTube 9 o'clock on Thursdays at Pacific time. We're also on iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you are. Write a comment. We love hearing what you guys have to say, especially if you can join us live in the chat so we can read them on air.
Yes.
Starting with 95 Rock Fan, who says, Rip is not in the right state in the right mind. He found his wife and his son's corpse. That's not the easiest things to cope with.
And that's absolutely true. And yes, of course, how could that not affect your ability to make effective strategic decisions in the moment? That being said, you should have the presence of mind to know that and to say, well, I'm very emotionally compromised. I am not fit to serve as captain.
I agree with that. Ronald says Rip depends on Gideon too much. How do you guys feel about that?
I feel like you should be depending on Gideon more.
Yeah.
I feel like Gideon's smarter.
Gideon went kind of quiet in tonight's episode. Sarah's like, yo, Gideon, you hear that? Gideon's like, yeah.
Gideon is listening to Rip and is just in her computer terminal going, ay.
Oh my God, 100%. As we all are.
Yeah.
But it comes to a point where the plans where Gideon's talking about how fast, would Jax with his football injury be able to do that dash across in 12 seconds? And sometimes you don't want the facts and the figures. You just want to, and the logic. You just want to be able to trust that there's going to be that little bit of human ingenuity and spirit that's going to overcome some of those odds.
Do you guys think there's somebody else on the team who is fit to be a better leader right now?
Right now, no.
Because I feel like no matter who it is, it's the blind leading the blind.
Yes, effectively. I feel like in an ideal world, eventually, maybe someone like Ray could grow into that role. Now, though, I certainly don't think he's cut out for it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think right now it's just because it is Rip's ship. They are traveling in time, so the context of the mission kind of puts Rip at a default leader for that. But if it wasn't a time travel mission and you were just stuck in one time period for an extended period of time and that was it, then I could see maybe somebody like Ray having an opportunity to step forward in a leadership role.
Speaking of Rip, that moment where he kind of gets his butt handed to him,
Yeah.
I was surprised with how badly he got beat up. Captain Cold just kind of let it happen. Same thing with Sarah. When Cold says, you got this, I figured it was because Rip was going to kick some butt. Not a good fighter. Not as strong as I thought.
But even he went up against Vandal Savage back in the past. So I feel like
that's why it's confusing.
Yeah. I feel like if you're going to go with Vandal Savage, although I guess it was Vandal Savage very early in his existence, so he doesn't have 4,000 years of fighting. I think maybe Rip fighting him now, hand-to-hand, would be a little bit different.
He also fought him, not last episode, but I think the episode before that, and won. But I'm wondering, you could make the argument maybe it's the raw, visceral emotion that's pushing him through that fight. Maybe. I don't know. I think you'd maybe need a little bit more than that to win at hand-to-hand combat with Vandal Savage twice. But I could maybe make that leap, whereas he doesn't have any real personal stake in fighting this Russian gangster. And if I'm Captain Cold, honestly, I'd probably let Rip get punched in the face once or twice before I did anything.
But not 3 times.
No, not the third time. It's egregious, for sure, but once or twice.
But we also get our first nod to Prison Break right in there as well, too.
Oh, we had a couple of them tonight.
We're talking about where's your tattoos, because a man without tattoos doesn't have a story.
Yeah, I love that. He says, I've never met a building I couldn't break into, which was amazing.
Well, and the very on the nose, this isn't my first prison break. And then he looks right at the camera and winks.
That was
There
a
you go.
pretty good Captain Cole.
That's right. And
I figured out, I think what he does, and I gotta keep listening, I think what he does is he'll get to the end of a sentence and he'll just elongate one of his words.
Yes.
And that's about all he does, I think.
Okay, teach us again. One more time. This isn't my first prison break.
See, now I'm on the spot. This isn't my first prison break.
It's almost
there.
It's almost
like
the word before the last word.
Prison break.
Yeah. It's the second to last word.
It's either the second to last or the last one, but he artificially elongates one of the last words in every sentence he says.
But it's perfect. What he does is perfect. Both him and Heatwave, I feel like, have the strangest way of talking that if it was anybody else, I would say, that's not realistic. What are we watching? This is such a cartoon. I love it. I love the choices they've made. Always have. So anyway, we do see that Rip gets his butt handed to him. Sarah makes that comment about, like, I just took out 6 guys. What the heck are you guys doing? Further proving that Sarah is the most valuable member on this team.
Yeah, why can't she be the leader?
Oh,
She's still
really?
wrestling. She's still wrestling with her issues.
Is that a real question?
I'm going to be honest. Yes, there's the whole bloodlust thing. I think even with the bloodlust, potentially more effective leader than Rip Hunter.
I don't think she's a leader, though. I think she's a very valuable player. She's not the captain of the team. She might be the MVP, though.
I agree. She's certainly better suited to that role. But she's not the worst potential leader on that ship at this point. I think almost any of them might be better than Rip.
Gideon needs to take over. Like, you have to step up,
Why
Gideon.
can't Gideon be the captain? So, yes, Gideon's a computer. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't care. I would listen to Gideon.
I would
At
honestly
least Gideon can predict the future.
let Rory be captain for a day just to see what happens.
But if you were ranking it, I think you go like Kendra, Jax. I would take them out of the running for leadership positions, and probably Rory, for sure. But I mean, there are compelling arguments you could make for having Snart or Sarah or Professor Stein or Ray be leaders in different situations.
I do think Snart's on a very interesting trajectory, and he's becoming so much more complex and so much more human.
It's fascinating, the advice that he gives to Sarah tonight, because I never thought those words would come out of his mouth when they're sitting there and they're about to go into the rescue, which of course we will get to, and he says something like, yes, look him in the eyes and kill him that way. And she says, we're talking about a teammate. He goes, I want you to remember that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
coming from Snart.
Because he's up on it right from the beginning, because he knows that when Rip takes Sarah aside, it kind of explains to her like the side mission. I mean, he comes right out, he's like, why did he keep you after class? And he goes, like, he wants you to take out Stein, right? That's the obvious play.
He knew it immediately.
Yeah.
He's got the brains.
And he's got a code, which this episode perfectly needed, his rogue's code.
It did fit his code. I feel like we slightly broke code at one point where he was willing to leave a member behind. He says he never leaves a member of his team behind. So,
well, which part are you talking about specifically? Are we talking about where they were just going to leave Ray in the cell?
I'm trying to be vague because we're not at the rescue yet. But
Okay.
I am talking about Ray.
But they put the suit as fuck. If he wakes up, the only way that's not fine is if the guards check which they probably would. They'd have to check him, and if they find the suit, they'd go, what is this? And they would take it. But if he happens to wake up before anyone finds him, then he gets tiny and he's fine. I don't know. When
it comes to Ray, I was the least surprised by his character choices tonight when he's getting the absolute living crap kicked out of him next to Heatwave. I'm talking about after the yard, and Heatwave is just taking the beating, and he said something like, oh, your mom. He
starts making fun of the guard's mom, and if I'm the guard too, I don't get that emotional that quickly. Like, at most I go, wait, you are in Gulag. My mother not in Gulag. It makes no sense. But of course, no, it gets the guard riled up immediately. I didn't know you were this good at the
voices. It was good.
I never have an excuse. But yeah, the guard gets really mad really quickly, as I suppose I would too if I was a guard in a Gulag, and then starts beating on Ray. Again, Ray gets beaten up a lot tonight.
But he takes it, and he did it to save Heatwave, which is something that Heatwave actually really respected.
It's interesting to see something actually affect him emotionally. Mm-hmm. And you see, like, I don't think of Mick Rory, I love this character and I love what they're doing with him. I don't generally think of him as a very emotional guy.
No, the most emotion we've seen him show is his fascination for Martin Stein when he's trying to get roofies from him or anything else.
Yeah, and I think that's way more about wanting a supply of roofies than it has to do with actually caring about other humans. But you see, he respects that Ray took the beating. He actually makes a reference to, he's putting down other people while building somebody else up, and he makes the reference to the only team I care about is the team me and Snart are on. But he clearly cares very much about his partner.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that there was going to be more payoff to the lighter.
No, it's just him. That's his little pyro moment. He just loves that flame, man. That's comfort.
When finally Adam comes back from the yard and was almost beat to death, and he comes back and sees Heatwave just looking at the lighter and is like, "What the heck, man?" I thought Heatwave was going to be like, "I've got a plan," or "We're going to light something."
Nope, just looking at the flame.
Yeah, when he first takes the lighter from the guy in the prison yard, there was a second where I went, I know what type of show I'm watching. He's going to manipulate that fire. And then I remembered he doesn't have fire powers. Right. He has a fire gun. Mm-hmm. And so I actually really enjoyed. It's essentially him being despondent, basically, and just he stares into the flame, and it's just like, no, make it sad.
Yeah, I know. I had a similar moment where I was thinking, oh, Heatwave, yeah.
Oh, wait, he can't. That's not something he does.
Him and Captain Cold really don't have actual powers here.
No, they just have cool guns.
Like, really, when they were recruited, they could have just taken their weapons instead and been like, all right, see you guys later.
Now, as far as I know, when Rory was captured last episode, they also got his gun, and I didn't see Snart hand his gun back to him when he broke him out. So, theoretically, his gun could still be back there.
Wait, you didn't see Snart hand back?
Heatwave back his fire gun. So, is that stuck back? I mean, although Vandal Savage is now obsessed with this fire gun technology, that this is going to destroy Star City.
They broke the timeline. Yeah.
Yep.
Seeing Vandal Savage again tonight get defeated again tonight, not to be a negative Nancy, but it was too soon, too much for me.
Well, this is the thing that we're talking about, like, oh, I can't imagine this being 20, it's just a shame it's like 22 episodes. And this is a sense where, like, I'm glad it's only 15, 16 episodes, because I don't want them to stretch this out over 22 episodes of them constantly going back and forth with Vandal Savage.
Here's where I'm at with that, and I agree. My general feeling about all of this stuff is that, and I said something very similar when we did the Arrow panel last night, I love this stuff profoundly. It is, all of it, if you take a step back and think about it for a second, pretty goofy. And that's fine. There is a line past which it gets a little too goofy. And for me, certain things go so far over that line, they become so egregiously goofy that it comes all the way back around to being absolutely wonderful again. Stuff like the canary cry comes to mind for me.
You think that's wonderful? Oh my God, I can't.
I think it is so egregiously goofy that I can't help but smile every time it happens. So, if you want to kill Vandal Savage every week or so, then I say let's go for it. Let's kill him 3 times an episode if we're gonna do that. If we're not gonna do that, we need to figure out another way to engage Vandal Savage.
It cannot be an every other week kind of thing. I see what you're saying. Either way over the top, but right now, this sometimes we do, depends on the episode. Not cutting it for me.
Well, it should feel like if they don't have the dagger, which it seems that they don't, they need to get Kendra that dagger. Then they shouldn't be just going, well, this is the next appearance when Vandal Savage pops up. And they say, let's go to 1986 Russia. They should just go whenever they know they can find that dagger. Whenever they can find that dagger, it's the timeline they should go to so they can get the dagger and then go after Vandal Savage. Just popping up to find Vandal Savage first seems like you couldn't put in the cart before the horse on this.
Right. Another weird part, which I made you guys rewind and watch 4 times so that I could possibly try to see maybe Stein was making a facial expression, is when Stein says, I'm sorry, have we met? To Vandal Savage. Stein, are you making a joke? Are you trying to fool him? Are you really getting old? Like,
for a second, my first thought was, well, maybe he's just trying to play super suave, because we've commented on how oddly Martin Stein seems to have been the best spy of the group, even better in certain moments than the actual spy in the group. Maybe this was that. And then very quickly, the second thought I had was, I don't think it's that. What?
Was this a writing problem? Did they not remember?
I think they remember. I think they just had him playing a beat where he was being purposely dumb. with Savage. She's like, oh, have we met before? He's not going to give up anything. But then when Vandal says, no, we remember 11 years ago, I mean, then he knows there's no sense in trying to argue that I've never met you before.
All right. Yeah, it's not like they went to the past, so they went further ahead in time. I'll let it go, but it struck me funny. The chat wants to let you know, by the way, Frank, that Snart gave Rory his gun back.
Oh, he did? All right, good.
So,
all right.
Thanks to our friends in here that all knew that.
There was a deleted scene where Rory built it out of the lighter he took.
Because I could not see another Rip Hunter hologram of future to Star City where I saw the fire gun has now destroyed Star City. That's why we've got to eliminate Rory.
Oh no! See now I'm picturing it like the first Iron Man of Rory in this gulag with the lighter, taking it apart, smashing stuff on an anvil. Guards going, where did he get the anvil? But not doing anything about it. And then all of a sudden he's got the heat gun again, and they bust out. Amazing. But of course had to cut it for time.
Yeah.
Before we go on this rescue mission, we end up showing Sarah the horrible future that her city could have if she doesn't potentially kill Stein. How often are we going to use this device? And do we feel like there's any way for Rip to kind of manipulate these images?
I don't know if he's manipulating. I mean, I certainly don't think he's manipulating them. I don't think, but I mean, the timeline is being altered by their actions, but it is getting a little tiresome where he'll go to one specific person and say, hey, guess what? This is what's happening. So I need you to do something, but don't tell the rest of the group that you're doing this because we really need to take care of this. Make sure it doesn't happen.
It is. I feel like we've established pretty clearly, individually and all together, that if we don't stop the really evil genocidal maniac, that bad things are going to happen to the timeline. I don't know that there's any reason he needs to go to anyone individually, whether it's Sarah or anybody else, and say, look what's going to happen to your home if we don't do this. That's egregiously manipulative.
So aggressive. I also have a strong feeling that at one point Gideon's like, Rip, look at the future, and it's all sunshine and rainbows, and he's like, tell no one.
That's why Gideon was quiet tonight.
Yeah.
Because he shut her down for the evening.
Before everybody leaves the ship, Gideon knows if everybody just stays here for the night, actually the future works perfectly. But Rip's family still gets hurt, so my lips are sealed.
Well, for this, I don't want to see any more episodes where people are sidelined or he's not wanting to put people in play, because I think we've all seen now by this now the 5th episode that their missions are only successful when they're all working together.
Yep.
So
I'm okay with,
let's stop dragging that out.
If he tries to sideline them, I'll be okay with it. But if they actually listen, then I'm going to be upset. Let him try to be the captain of the ship and have them say, screw you.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here.
And that almost happened after the reveal where they find out that they're not actually legends in the future. There was moments of them starting to question him and maybe not wanting to listen to him, and then pretty quickly they all seem to fall back in line. And I'm not sure why they did that, because he hasn't become a better leader since then.
Certainly not. He has done, if not a very small amount of things, I would say absolutely nothing to prove himself. Like,
no,
what things?
He killed Vandal Savage twice, which is fine if Vandal Savage doesn't come back every time you do that.
He killed Kendra's son and Kendra's husband or soulmate, whatever we want to call him, and then tonight almost killed Stein.
But he did save Stein's marriage, so let's give Rip that. He went back to make sure that he and his wife did meet.
That's true, and he does come around tonight. He comes around. He says, all right, we're going to come save Stein. I'm in on this. Was not exactly positive what changed his mind.
He read the
change
script.
Of heart.
He pulled a script out of the time stream. Look, I feel like I dump on Rip Hunter quite a bit on this show, and to be clear, I like Rip Hunter. I love Arthur Darvill's performance, and I think there's so much potential there to take him to really interesting places. I just think anyone else should be in charge.
Yeah, I'm with you. Luckily, the rescue mission goes okay. I'm a little worried about Jax's knee, but hey, I guess he'll recover.
I thought the Barry Allen Who was very cute.
That was the best line of the episode.
That was very cute. I like that.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I love when they do things like that. So the rescue, it went okay. And I was thinking, all right, the episode's done now. We've seen it. We got him back. We killed the Vostok. We're good.
I'm hoping the fact that we see her blow up. We didn't actually see her die. We just see a detonation. So I hopefully at least a door open that she could come back as Negative Woman.
Yeah.
She could be Negative Woman, or she could also be this universe's version of Posar if they decide to go that way.
That's true. That's true. She was in some pain. That looked like serious agony. But I was thinking, all right, guys, let's go in there and let's talk about the show. And then we started traveling again. And we ended up in Star City. We got shot down by Kronos, by one of the missiles, and we ended up in Star City in 2046.
Let's just talk about Kronos for 1 second, because I feel like he only shows up in blips of episodes, and then just is, like, seems menacing for a second, and then is rendered ineffective, and then he disappears.
He's also got a copy of the script. So he's sitting in the time stream, flipping through, and he goes, okay, page 38, and hits a button on his ship, and then boom, shows up, starts firing missiles.
Yeah, and even when he doesn't make it, okay, drop off face of the Earth, missiles keep going, got it, all right, fire a little further.
I like the idea of Kronos on his ship going, I'm not in any of this. Get my agent on the phone. What's going on?
Bitter.
If they could just build him up more to be more effective, it would be nice to be able to alternate Vandal Savage-centric episodes with Kronos-centered episodes where they're trying to avoid or defeat Kronos, so we can get away from the Vandal Savage through line for 1 episode or 2 episodes and then come back to it.
When Kronos first appeared, he seemed very formidable. He seemed like a physically intimidating presence that was someone other than Vandal Savage that could present a realistic ongoing threat for this team. And now, I guess he's still presenting a threat to the team, but it's literally just been, every so often I'm going to shoot a missile at you from very far away.
He kind of seems like a gnat right now, just like, oh, shoo. All right, let me smack you down. All right, keep going. Oh, you're not really that big. You're just annoying, and you keep throwing off our path.
Yeah.
So I can't spend too much time on him because this wasn't the craziest part. We get there. Trash cans are burning. Some people don't even know where we are, don't know when we are, and then we see who we believe to be Oliver.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice, a friendly face, just chilling here. Sarah's like, yo, Ollie, what's up? It's me, Sarah. Remember? We used to kind of like, all right, never mind.
And then there was the Ray's line, don't you remember Rip Hunter recruited us to be legends? Which was so goofy.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculously goofy. We also see Smoke, which is interesting to see.
That's great for her. I'm really glad that eventually, presumably, Felicity becomes the head of this, the head in name, not just in title, of this big technology conglomerate. Well, and unfortunately, her city is destroyed.
Only if things are destroyed does she get to do this, though. Or when does that happen?
Right.
At what point? Now, if we go correct the timeline, is there no more Smoke? Is it still Palmer Technology?
No, it's like Curtis Holt's company.
Yeah, something like that. So I was thinking, all right, Oliver, why are you is this just a thing you do now? You take a couple extra seconds to remember somebody you've gotten a little older
He's a little older, yeah.
So
this dude doesn't know any legends.
Yeah. Scary stuff. We have some theories at the table about.
Oh, yeah, I think he's Connor Hawke, his son from the comics.
That would make the most sense. In a world where we have established no other potential future Green Arrow, that, I think, would make the most sense, especially since, wasn't it confirmed that Connor Hawke would show up in some capacity on this show?
Yes.
I believe so. So that's what we're going with. It seems like everybody in the chat agrees with that, and everybody on Twitter seems to think the same thing. Are there any other options we really have?
Who else? Off the top of my head, I really can't think of any known character that it would make sense for that to be.
All right, let's get to some news and gossip then, because we wrapped the episode, and then we'll cover our predictions on that.
AfterBuzz TV News.
So we have an image of actually something I thought we were going to see tonight when we see Green Arrow. I'm like, oh, maybe this is the moment where we're going to see older Oliver. But it wasn't. Fortunately, these 2 images were released. Oliver rocking that beard.
I love that they gave him his goatee, and yes, it is a wildly disheveled caveman version of the classic goatee, but big step.
Big step because you thought they weren't going to go all the way?
Oh no, I miss the goatee. I like the goatee on Green Arrow, and I get why maybe right now, week to week on Arrow, they don't want to give Stephen Amell the full facial hair, maybe, but
young, hot, chiseled goatee doesn't usually all go together.
And not for nothing, when he's not in the costume, it would probably look ridiculous. But when he's in the costume, I miss it a little bit. So I was glad when I heard that, yes, future Ollie will have a goatee. he's been through some stuff, it looks like, and just maybe hasn't been keeping it quite as efficiently as maybe he did for a while.
Your city's on fire, so I think probably grooming your facial hair is probably a little bottom of your priority.
His city's not on fire. He's dead when we see what's going on here. So
we think he's dead.
Yeah, that's what we hear.
Well, the teaser says he's dead.
But the picture says
But the pictures
otherwise.
say he's walking around, plus time travel, so maybe he's dead now, but like, you just zoom a year or two ago, or...
Plus other Earths.
No, I think maybe it's they got to re-inspire the Arrow. They got he's feeling beat down, feel like he's on the losing end of the battle, and maybe the legends help reignite his passion for justice.
A.M. Hardwick says, who is the other guy? Is there another guy in the photo?
In the first photo that we put up. So to address that, we'd have to touch on the teaser for next week. Is that something we can do now, or do you want to jump into predictions for that?
Let's do that. Let's jump into predictions while doing that.
Okay. Where's our... There it is.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Darus.
That's what we in the business call a callback.
That's right. I hope they got to the Russian gulag.
Yeah, Dave is in a gulag right now, making those guards laugh hysterically. They don't get it, but it's funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I believe the other person in that picture is Deathstroke, because we name drop Deathstroke, and we see a version of the Deathstroke armor in the teaser for next week's episode. Now, is it Slade Wilson, or is it somebody else who's adopted the wardrobe and the title? Also, interestingly, they're still allowed to use Deathstroke.
Which I heard they weren't. That they weren't allowed to use Deathstroke at all anymore, so I'm confused by this. But if they are, Slade,
I would love,
please,
because
Slade.
I love Manu Bennett's performance in that role.
So good.
Also, if you're listening right now and you're in the live chat or you're on Twitter and you have any idea on what grounds Warner Brothers determines which characters these shows are and are not allowed to use, please let us know.
It's all the minor characters that they can't use, like Flash and things of that nature. What?
Yeah.
What?
That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And okay, fine, if they snuck Flash in under the wire before the hammer dropped. Okay, fine. Well, what are we gonna do? This is your show. You can't have Flash without Flash. Fine. You can keep Flash. But why, if they're making a Suicide Squad movie, and that's why we don't get Deadshot anymore, that's why we don't have Amanda Waller, why do we still get Deathstroke, especially when I believe the movie branch has specifically said we have plans for Deathstroke.
Yeah.
Why do we still get Katana, for example?
Same question people also had about Booster Gold. Why did we lose Booster Gold? What happened there? Why did we lose Blue Beetle? Why are you taking this from us? Are you just trying to make us miserable?
It's okay, Roxy. It's okay, Roxy.
And it's like I could find a way to live with it if I knew.
That's true. I just wish somebody would kind of whisper in my ear, like, hey, P.S., this is what's up. This is what's coming. I'd be like, all right, I'm down with that. What do we have for predictions for next week, though? How long are we going to stick around? 2046. Do we have a couple episodes there? Are we going to get out of there as fast as we can?
I feel like it's just a one and done for 2046. Because I feel like, as far as I know, it's Stephen Amell's only doing one episode, as far as I know, for Legend. So I think it might be.
There is that. There is the question of Stephen Amell's shooting schedule, because I feel like, shooting him for more than one episode would require jumping through even more logistical hoops. I know they probably need him to shoot the show that he's the lead on. But also, there's a pattern forming where we spend 2 episodes doing one thing, then we got a one-off, then we spend 2 episodes doing one thing. So maybe next one will be a one-off, and then we'll spend 2 episodes doing another thing.
I think we spent 3 episodes in the 70s.
We did, yeah. The third episode was drinking Carter's blood.
Yeah, but I feel like they're doing something very different in that episode than they were doing in the previous.
Do you always remind me about drinking Carter's blood because you know that I squeamishly hid?
That good blood.
It's like a little jab at me, kind of.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna get Roxy. Yeah, just tweeting you, drinking Carter's blood. What are you doing, Roxy?
I'm done with you. I'm beating my heart over here. Explosion. Beat the heart. Explosion. By the way, midway through, somebody in the chat was like, "Ooh, should have opened with This Girl's on Fire." That would have been brilliant. Because she was. That girl was on fire.
Now I'm feeling regret. That's what this is.
Any other predictions, guys, about next week?
Well, we know we're seeing Oliver Queen, or we assume we're seeing Oliver Queen. I was under the impression that he was going to be down an arm. and he doesn't look like he's down any arms in the pictures that we've seen. So my prediction is maybe Oliver Queen's going to lose an arm.
Okay, big prediction, Frank.
I'm predicting. I guess it's not a prediction. It's just a wish. I wish that they. I hope that they all work together and not
Really?
not split apart this episode.
I predict there's a hot girl dancing somehow. She was waving her hands in the air like she just don't care. Good one, Steven. Thanks for that. All right, guys, in the meantime, till next week, where can everybody keep up with you?
Keep up with me. All over social media at the Lex Michael. I'm not that fast.
That's okay. If you want, we could probably get Barry Allen to run back. You could, start that over.
Hashtag Barry Allen who?
Got it. I love it.
There you
So
go.
you are quick. You're getting there. Frank.
You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. Tell me about all the other stuff in this episode that I missed, or let's just chat about comics. Let's do it.
Yeah, friends are good.
Yeah.
And, of course, Dave Child is at Mr. Dave Child. He'll be back with us next week.
We gotta go get him from the gulag.
Send them your care packages.
The three of us, or
We're
can I
gonna.
send you
We're
there?
gonna sideline you for this one.
Lex, we
I'm
only
okay
know
with
it works
that.
well if we all work together.
No,
but
I'm chill. Like, I'll just, it's supposed to be nice out this weekend. Maybe we'll go hang out. I'll come back with a tan. You guys bring Dave back. Guys, you can find me at Roxy Striar. You can find us at AfterBuzz TV, AfterBuzzTV.com, YouTube.com/AfterBuzzTV, on iTunes, on SoundCloud, wherever you are. Give us that 5-star, that thumbs up, write a comment. We love hearing what you guys have to say. And if you want, join us in the chat on YouTube at 9 p.m. on Thursdays Pacific time. You guys are the absolute best. We will see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.